Greetings and good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sisters for Sisters Incorporated, as we observe National Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month, April. We're so grateful that you are a part of this experience with us today. I am the executive director and founder of Sisters for Sisters, and so would like to welcome you and invite you to encourage other folks to come on board so we can learn more about autism, the spectrum, some of the signs, the resources, and services, so we can really help our community be more educated and aware. As sisters, we always begin everything we do with prayer because we know with God all things are possible. So if you will, join with me in prayer this morning. Father, dear God, we love you and we adore you. We appreciate this platform you've given us to share the good news about Jesus and the power of understanding the impact of autism and the resources and services that can help our children and our adults better manage their lives. I want to thank you for our special guest who's with us today. I want to thank you for those that are tuning in and listening, whether it's live or the recording. We pray that the information will help to change lives and to provide services and resources necessary for our families to have a more joyful and happier life, because certainly we can live successfully with autism because we have you in our lives. Lord, we thank you for this day, and it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. So again, I want to thank you all for joining and tuning in. And I got to say, this was a divine connection. Our guest speaker is none other than a sister who has been very supportive of sisters over the years. But most importantly, she comes with an authentic voice. She comes from a place where she can certainly share her experiences. Adopted as a child due to her mom's mental health and diagnosed with dyslexia at a young age, our special guest, Akina Allen, started advocating for herself. And now, for 20 years, she continues to be a voice, a strong voice, I might add, for the voices. We are very honored and very grateful to have this very dynamic and powerful woman. And I mean that because I know many days I wondered, Lord, what am I doing? And Akina always came with the information, the encouragement, the resources. So I am so happy to welcome her because she brings an authentic word. I wanted to say gift, but that's true too. But most of all, she's very authentic in what she brings. And I thank her for being connected for over 15 years to this Sisters to Sisters family. And we're grateful to have her today. Sister Akina Allen, welcome, welcome. We're grateful to have you on
Hey,
today.
Carolyn, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate just being able to share with you just my walk with advocacy and special needs advocacy. But I think it's more important that we talk about the gift in understanding the signs of autism. So today, what I'm going to do is we're going to start out, and I am going to start going over some things that you may or may not know, and I'm going to give you some insight on the brain and have a conversation. So let's get started. So I'm going to share my screen, and let me see. Yeah, share my screen with this right here, and I'm going to share here. Okay, so this is me, and autism is a gift. So keep in mind, everything I'm talking to you about is to understand it, but more importantly, it's to know that this is a gift. It's not a curse, okay? So the second slide we're going to talk about is that the difficulty is on the other side of the gift. And I say that because most of the time people talk about autism as if it's a curse or it's just something so difficult that normal everybody else does. So the purpose of this tool is for you to have a positive dialogue with stakeholders, with the IEP meetings, and to show an awakening and learning style for the student. So that's what we're going to do. So first, we're going to start out with the brain. One of the things that we need to understand is that the autism situation and diagnosis is affecting the brain. It's affecting how they're processing the outside world. And we need to understand that and the sensory issues that come with it. So this particular picture, and of course, this particular presentation, I will be sending to Carolyn. I can send it out. You may have a loved one or whoever that really needs this. So we're going to talk about that. This is the parts of the brain. One of the areas that you look at the developmental side is the speech area, which is located right here. That is an area where it's difficult because we can't hear or understand what our individual knows. Now, this slide right here talks about the brain. It's a long list, but the language comprehension in the area is the rhetoric side. So that's just so to give you some intel as to the parts of the brain and what we're working with. Now, early signs of autism. A lot of times we have children, and I myself personally, when I had complications with my son's pregnancy, they told me he could be on the spectrum of autism and to look out for these signs to make sure that he was on track. So they talk about avoiding and not keeping eye contact. Doesn't respond between the ages by 9 months. By 9 months, your child should be able to know and hear their name enough that they can look at you in the face. They may not be able to respond a lot, but they should be able to look at you in your face or look in the direction where their name is being called. They don't really show any emotions.
Find a girl that's okay with his lifestyle so that he doesn't have to grow up. That's why these weak men look. I'm sorry.
Okay. Hello? And so these are the things right here that the facial expressions, they don't really express sad, happy. So you don't really know if they like what they're experiencing or they're not. Doesn't play with simple interactive games like patty cake. Like it's just, they don't respond to it at all. And they show few or no gestures by 12 months of age. And, they don't wave goodbye. Most of the time by that age, babies are waving hi, bye, and different things like that. So that's another angle that we know that it's like there's something slightly disconnected there. There's some things that are not really going forward. The next slide, we're going to talk about the other early signs of autism. Doesn't show interest. By 15 months, they don't really show interest or shows or fascinating with certain things. It's almost like it's void. Doesn't point to things. By 18 months, they should be saying car or mine or candy or something because they've heard it repetitively during the ages of when they were younger. So those are the things that we have to pay attention to. They don't notice others up until 24 months. Like they don't notice when people are hurt or upset. It's almost like that sensory part of them is just not receptive or not, I won't say empathic, but they're not picking up these things as say, for the most part, typical children do at that age. Doesn't pretend or anything else. They don't have, like anybody that they've seen enough and they connect to like different characters and things like that. They're not doing singing and dancing. So those motor skills and those different rhythm skills haven't kept in yet. Like it's just, they're not hearing that part. And it's because they're focused, and I'm gonna get to that why in a minute, because that's the sign of a possible, that's what a gifting is. But we're gonna get into that. Other signs, delayed language. They may not be speaking, or they may just have a hard time putting together different things and references stop and don't touch, or they may just show you they don't like something. Delayed movements in some cases, depending on how it's bothering them. It could be a situation of they're not moving as fluidly. Also, too, low muscle tone development is also a sign of autism for that reason. So they're not walking. They may be walking on their tippy toes. I actually walked on my tippy toes, but I was flat-footed. But in some cases, if it's progressive, they probably, it's a sign as well. Hyperactivity or impulsive, inattentive nature. They could have something called stemming. They could just be flailing their hands as a way of when they're excited or something is triggering them. Epilepsy or seizures, depending on the brain function. It could be a situation if the child is having early seizures and epileptic episodes. That's something to pay attention to on all costs, but that's also a sign for that. unusual eating or sleeping habits. So a lot of times, in some cases, there's something called food divergence. And food divergence, a lot of times, it has possibly something to do with the sensory and how the individual is tasting foods. It could be the texture, it could be even just salty or sweet or sour, but it's certain foods they just don't like and they will not eat. And in other cases, in some cases, it comes down when you're trying to get them to eat vegetables and fruits, they may not like the particular texture of it. So they may stay away from it, or they may touch it. They don't like that, so they don't touch it at all. So it's almost like kind of working around that particular area so that they can get those nutrients that they need from those items. You also have gastro issues like conflict. Their body's not processing food the way everyone else's body is. Unusual mood or reaction. They could be really sad in that very happy environment, or they may just want to be by themselves. A lot of times when there's a lot of people, or they may not like crowds. That's another thing to pay attention to. Anxiety or stress or worry. Just certain things just really make them worry, like they just don't want to do things, or just certain topic matters they stay away from. Lack of fear. In some cases, they just walk on and don't think about it, where some things were like, that's a little scary. They don't see fear. They just keep walking. They have a mission, they have a goal, and that's good. That's a really good thing, and it comes in handy. But these are things that typical areas of fear that we have that could be something they don't have, and that's something to pay attention to, because it could be like threatening, and it'd be hard to convey the danger with that situation. So then we have restricted lines of toys. Now, this is where some things come into play. They line up toys and objects and get upset when it's out of order. So they're very highly organized. Autism, in some cases, utilizes an area of just hyper organization. And that's something to pay attention to. They want colors or shapes or sizes of things linked up. If you ever walk into a grocery store and you notice a child and they're at the counter or either at an aisle and they're literally rearranging the aisle, it's because in their mind it's out of order. They repeat words or phrases. It's almost like they have to keep telling themselves something, either for soothing purposes, or they are just having to repeat it. It's the thing that's basically kind of stuck right there in their memory. They play with the toys in the same way. There isn't no span of imagination. Once they look at the function of a toy or an object, they play with it in that manner. That's what they do. And it's that particular toy is assigned to that particular task. They get upset with minor changes. A lot of times with autism students, they are built on routine, and you have to stick in that routine. I believe they call them the Amelia Bedelia children. They want that routine, and it has to be a routine that they can stick with forever. Do not change it. Let them change it. They have obsessive interests. They could go really deep on things, and you'll find out that actually is part of a gifting. You must follow routines. They have a routine. Once they learn a routine, they stick with that routine. They flap their hands and they spin. That is called stimming. That is a calming mechanism in how they cope with the overstimulation of the world around them and how they're ingesting it. And what you have to understand, it's almost like it's like turning on a light and everywhere, and they just don't know how to find a level of calm because everything is going off at one time. And that's the reason why you see them flailing their hands, they're walking back and forth, they may be playing with their hair. Those are calming mechanisms, but it's also called stimming. Have unusual reaction to things and loud sounds and smells. They don't like, in some cases, they may go off. It may send them to cry. A lot of times with babies, and they're on the autism spectrum already, that's been diagnosed, they don't like loud smells. They don't like loud sounds. You can't do loud sounds around them, or some loud sounds don't even affect them. It just really depends how it is. Some things look, taste, feel, smell. They're very tactile in a sense because of the fact that their sensories are high. So that tactile nature of how their brain is functioning is what's being given to us in reference to that right there. The other aspect is developmental and monitoring. Okay, so developmental monitoring is an active, ongoing process. And basically what this phrase is saying is that it is never just a one-stop shop. When you're looking at autism and you're looking at the different varieties and spectrums that autism falls on, it's always looking to see where this student or where this person lies, where it's being put. And that is one of the things that we have to understand, is that this is not a one-stop shop. It's not, oh, this is autism and this is what it is. Because as you grow, you develop certain things, certain experiences make an imprint on you. So what you have to do is the same with autism. You got to say, okay, they're collecting experiences and their mind and their body is filing them in certain ways. So it's a development, and it's ongoing. It's completely ongoing, and there is no script. There is no script for that. So that right there is important to know going forward. Now, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends when you have a baby, you go for your 9-month or 18-month, after they give them all the shots when they're first born. And at that time period, the doctor will ask you certain things. They will ask you, are they doing this? Are they doing that? They're asking you this to see if that child is making their benchmarks, because too many missed benchmarks at these stages, or delayed, or the things that they're doing at 18 months, they were supposed to be doing at 9 months. And it just looks at the regression, and it's not regression, it's just the delayed development, means that those parts of the brains and what I showed you earlier, that's what that is. There's some disconnect right there. In addition, it recommends that to be screened by 18 months. If you feel like there's so many delays, you need to go ahead and start looking at getting the child tested. And I think that's a good idea, because it's not so much looking at attacking a problem. I look at it as understanding how to best have this person in society, and how to achieve a win. And your goal as a caretaker, as a parent, as an aunt, is to find out how this person will become an adult and survive in an ever-changing society. But if you don't know and you're not catching this early, it could be a problem down the line for that reason. So that's one of the areas that I tend to tell my clients for that right there. Now, a pre-testing does not, under no circumstances, it does not tell you, oh, this is autism. And I suggest going to a developmental pediatrician. I do, in fact, have a whole list of resources, specifically developmental pediatricians. Now, there's two things developmental pediatricians do. One, they can tell you where the gaps are. Number two, they can start having you to help you with the process of getting your child an IEP. And in some cases, if the child is before school age, it's something called an FIEP, which that is a legal document that helps the family to support this individual. So it is really good that as early as you can to get this child tested, and for that reason. Now, let's look at the gifting of autism on the spectrum. Now, this right here talks about highly functioning and what the gift is that autism brings. So it's not just accepting all of what we feel is difficult or what doesn't color outside the lines. We're going to look at the gifting, and there's science that backs this up. So you have different, like everything else, there's an intersection of gifted autism, mathematics, engineering. This is some of the most brilliant minds I have ever come across. And I think the problem is that society sees them as so close, is that, they want them to fit in so much, but that's not what they're built for. They were given a gift and an assignment. And in some cases, I have seen it where they will move you out the way because they understand their assignment, because they're not easily distracted from what it is, what's going on around them. So the intelligence is called a disorder of high intelligence. And as you can see in this data right here, it shows that they have a high IQ. It is extremely high IQ. And consequently, it comes at a cost. They call it, with the autism situation. And they're finding that this right here is something that is overlooked. So yes, it is difficult for them to deal with our world the way we deal with it and to process it. But I don't want you to see it just as a difficulty. I want you to see it as a complete gifting. This gifting is going to allow you to prepare your loved one for the world around them, and also tap into their genius. And I think that is one of the things that we forget as a society, is everything that doesn't look like us. A lot of times we kind of want to push it aside. And that's not what we should do. We should not only just accept it, but we should embrace the difference and the gifting that it comes with it. So this right here talks about, they call it the disorder of high intelligence because it looks to us like a disorder, but really it's such a high level of intelligence that you have to address this intelligence and this gifting a different way. So they say they have large brain size, they have fast brain growth, increased sensory and spatial, meaning that they have sensory that we don't pick up sometimes. It takes us a minute to pick it up. They pick it up quickly, very quickly. And it's part of why you can tell that there's autism in the early stages, but as they become adults, it is a complete gifting. Enhanced set functions, increase attention to focus. They will focus on something and be able to tell you, this is what this is, completely, period. Socioeconomic status, a lot of times they actually understand the gift of autism. They become very high earners in society if you know how to tap into this gift. They're more deliberate decision making, like they look at everything in black and white. They make decisions based on facts. Very little to no emotion when autistic individuals make decisions. The professional interests a lot of times are engineering and physical science. They're excellent. I have seen some of the most beautiful minds in engineering that I've ever seen, and they're autistic. They're completely autistic because they stick with the facts. You can't sway them because they can always show you the facts. They also make really good investigators. High levels of positive, assertive, and mating idealisms. They persevere in intense focus. They have the ability to persevere a lot better than quote unquote the normal society because they're just driven to their point. They very rarely let you knock them off of their point, period. And they will let you know, get out of my way. With no emotion, they're not being mean. They just want you to get out their way because they're ready for what their assignment is. They have sensory differences, like everything else we've talked about. They have very vivid imaginations. They can see things. It's almost like having dynamic reasoning. They can see down the line for that reason. And in some cases, they have issues sitting still. In some cases, they need work environments or school environments that allow them flexibility to move frequently, very fluidly for that reason. They have challenges with emotional regulation. So in some cases, some social interactions just don't sit well with them. It just doesn't sit well with them. Their niche area experience are logical, precise thinking, and divergent. They are very good at this. This is something that needs to be cultivated. And I tell everybody, when you walk into a situation like an IEP meeting or a diagnosis, it is daunting. It is so daunting, but I don't want you to forget the gifting that this brings. But everything that looks like a disorder, there is a gifting that disorder brings. And I want everybody to know this. When I tell my clients, we know this. And I let them know when you deal with IEP meetings, shift the focus to not so much as what's wrong, but let's talk about the gifting and how this can help this person become the person they need to be as they get older. One of the things that I've seen. Now, there's something called the Raven Metrics. It's a classic intelligence test, and the subject analyzes skills to complete an ongoing visual pattern. And I believe I was tested on this too when I was younger. So at this rate right here, they found that autistic people, non-autistic people are 40% in a progressive situation, but 23% faster than non-autistic individuals. So it's in the science that this particular test shows that these individuals are very highly intelligent. They scored an average of 30% and in some cases 70% higher on the WIC on these other tests. And intelligence for children of ages 6 to 16. Don't just let a test tell you this child is maybe not fitting in. Make sure you look at the testing to see where the genius is. I tell everybody, there is a genius in everything. And if you pay more attention to what's wrong, you will never get to what's right. Your goal as a caretaker is to say, yes, I know we have this as a challenge, but guess what? We also have this as a gifting. And let's focus on the gifting side. It says, although a third of autistic children in the study considered range intellectual disability, only 5% will be judged according to this right here. So these are things to understanding mainstream intelligence versus, say, a particular type of intelligence right here. And with this right here, you have different levels of intelligence with autism and things of that such. So that's something to look at right here. Resources. So I have resources that I put into this particular presentation that I will be giving to Carolyn, and I will be sending this to her. One of the areas of autism that we need to make sure that we pay attention to is if your child is not doing what you believe they should be doing. I don't say always to compare your child to everyone else, but when you look at it, and if it stands out completely, I would say to always just make notation. And within this right here, I have a area of, let me see, I'll pull it up, and I will pull up the resource in reference to early milestones. So if I can get my computer to do what I needed to do, this right here is the early milestone. So what you want to do, if you think something is off, I would strongly suggest you find this particular sheet that I'm going to try to pull this up so you can look at it on my screen. Let me see if I can pull this up from here. That's the best situations right there. Let me see. I'm going to try to see if I can find for you the, let's see here, the screening side of things. So we're looking at developmental coaching, but the fact sheet on monitoring and screening, I don't know if you guys can see this right here, but I want to, maybe that's not it. Okay, so there is a screening that I saw. So with developmental screening and the monitoring side is that you celebrate the child's development, you talk about the child's progress, and you oftentimes have to look at what the doctors are saying for that reason. You want to know your why. You want to find out what is causing this right here. So there's different levels of developmental screening from the ages of 18 to 24. And with 18 and 24, as you know, our hormones change from a children to adults. So it's one of the areas that we need to say modify and make sure that we have on intact this fact that we can do this. Okay, my screen is like acting very weird. Okay. Okay, I'm trying to, I think I hit the wrong section of my computer. So let me see right here. But if you have any questions for me, or you have any areas that you need help with, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I have, let me see, this is my information right here. And if you need me for consulting purposes, you can reach me on IG. I would say ask any particular questions that you need for this situation right here. Let me see here. Again, this is an issue with the brain. And I'm showing you this particular part of the brain so that as you, as parents, as caregivers, look at the brain function, you can gradually see what it is that you need to know in reference to the brain, in reference to your particular individual. So I will start to look at different things that maybe let's just review some of this right here, the early signs of autism. Since I've gone through this, maybe coming in, we're talking about the early signs of autism. We're talking about what to do. We're looking at how this is. Now, these are eye contact issues. They don't really have sad or happy. But the other angle with autism, I find that because they're very tactile individuals, you can also have a situation where they may act out. They may scream, they may hit, and it's not purposeful. It's the fact that you need to know that these individuals may not be able to express what they're thinking verbally. And what I've noticed in some cases is that you have different resources that will give you that aspect of therapy. And once again, I say, ask for a developmental pediatrician when it comes to understanding your child's not making these particular areas of cognition, because it's going to help you to be able to help that child later on, especially if you can catch it before they get to school, because you're able to have that one-on-one conversation and have that data backed up by your pediatrician. And also, you'll also have it from your therapist, and may be able to include that therapist, if the child is comfortable, as a part of the IEP setup. For that reason, you want to make sure that in this environment of autism awareness, that you tend to want to make sure, since they are Amelia Bedelia children, you want to also make sure that you have as much familiarity as possible. I will start to take questions. If anyone has questions, let me know.
Tina, you were extremely thorough. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. You mentioned some powerful points. One in particular, you talked about the IEP. And for many parents or caretakers, that's often an overwhelming experience. What would you say to someone who suspects or wonders if their child is on the spectrum of autism? What are their steps that they should take for their child?
The first thing you should do is go talk to the developmental pediatrician and say, I think my child's missing some benchmarks. That's number one. Because in some cases, a typical pediatrician may not have caught those things. Or they may have said, oh, they'll grow into it. Oh, they'll grow into it. Or they'll grow out of that. That's a typical phrase that you hear a lot from basic pediatricians. But then press the issue and go get a developmental pediatrician. And all of the things that I told you to write down, take it to that developmental pediatrician and say, this is what I think. What do you see? And when a developmental pediatrician says, yeah, let's get them tested. So let the developmental pediatrician get them tested and then go to the school and say, I have this here. Let's get you guys to test them because I have medical backing, but I need an IEP started so this child, the student, can get help in school. So what you do is you go through and you write a letter, and they have 90 days to respond. And you write it to the entire team and you request, because they're going to start telling you things that your child is not doing, or they're a little bit different than their peers. That's how you start that process, is that you get all of that factual medical information, you take it and say, I need a formal IEP done. And they're gonna try to push back, and you're gonna say, I have this here. I need to know, because all of these meetings that we've had, you're telling me where my child is not meeting the standard of his peers. So we need to take a deeper look. And this is what I believe it is. This is what the doctor has, but I need this on record. Because you're going to need the school to create that IEP so that child can have accommodations going forward. Did I answer your question?
You did. That was great. And when you talked about accommodations, um, share with the audience what accommodations might look like for their child. You have any, can you share that?
So I can look at the fact that we can look at a routine. So a lot of times in kindergarten, as you and I know, kids have routines. So having familiarity and having the teacher and having an aid. So when a child maybe get off the school bus, that aid is there and the child goes right with that aid. And have a program set up where this is what you do first, this is what you do second, because they're very process driven. So have a routine for that child in the morning, and then have a familiar person that they can connect with when they get off the bus, when they arrive to school and they leave you. And it's the option of familiarity in a routine that they are comfortable with, that they understand. That is how you do that. You cater to the strength of them having a routine where they know where they're going and they clearly understand it. And you give them space to ask questions if they don't think it's logical. They're very logical children. So you give them that space for logic and for them to ask questions. Does that make sense?
It does. Makes a lot of sense. Makes a tremendous amount of sense. I wanted to ask you a question. I know a lot of people don't talked about developmental delays and autism, especially with girls. As a mother with a daughter with autism, it was very interesting how um, it just appeared as though there were no real systems in place to help at that time. And then I had to get an advocate. We had to
Mm-hmm.
hire an advocate to
Mm-hmm.
help us to identify the services. As a matter of fact, I even took my child out of school until we actually won the case for
Mm-hmm.
my child.
Mm-hmm.
You have any feedback or thoughts to share on that
Yeah.
item for
So
parents?
as we know, when we go through puberty, we went through puberty, our bodies change, our sensory change, everything changed. But it is 10 times plus 100 times more for an adult, a young lady going into adult as an autism person, because there's so many things that go on. You need to have that, and that's when you go to there's a autistic therapy division place in this area, in DC area. And you want to address that early and say, what does it look like when she starts menstruating? What does this look like? Because we know what we feel like, but what is it? How can we help her be able to have that freedom and just deal with all of the hormonal issues that are going on during that time period? And you want to make sure that the school understands that she's not going to act like the rest of the girls who are going through puberty, because she's kind of like, I won't say landlocked, but she can't really express, I'm having cramps, I'm not feeling good today, I have a headache. All of the things that we take for granted that we know, okay, yeah, we know what time of the month it is. It's hard. It's hard for them to express that because it's an emotional thing. We get emotional. So what do you think she's gonna, what that individual's gonna do? So it's good to be connected with the doctor, and maybe even finding an OB that specializes in working with that, because at that point, there's moving past the pediatrician and you're going into the obstetric situation, the gynecology situation. So it's getting that connection between the pediatrician as well as the gynecologist to address these things and to find a routine where she understands what's going on with her body. She can verbally say it, or she can have like some communication cards and say, listen, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm feeling right now. This is not good. I don't want to go to school. I want to be left alone. And just connecting those pieces and talking to schools, and maybe having an alternative where there's an option for doing work from home. There's a lot of technology now, and it's like, listen, she's not having a good day. We will get this work done, but can she just do it electronically? And have that flexibility to say, today isn't a good day, and don't force it. Just say, hey, can we do this from here? We will make sure the work is done, but having that flexibility and maybe having it built into the IEP, having it flexibility and do it. Did that answer your question, Carol?
I'm trying to log back in. Yes, it absolutely answered my question. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we have to look at. Everybody comes here different. Everybody comes here different. And we need to understand that we're going to have to accept life as differences. And trying to make someone fit into your box is not, there's a reason why there's a box next to all of my slides, because I truly believe autism is a gift. I truly
Mhm.
believe it is a gift that is so uncharted that people spend more time looking at it as a complete difficulty that they miss the gift and process. And I feel like we need to start looking at it, and we need to start empowering these children so they can become adults that can stand up. Because I'm gonna tell you, you can do a lot inside of a classroom and dealing with IEP meetings. But at the end of the day, as a parent, I can tell you, I want to know how that child can walk across the stage. How can this child become the better version of themselves? That's where I am. Because I feel like you need to prepare for that. When you see them like that, you need to say, okay, what does this look like when they graduate from 12th grade? Another thing, speaking of graduation, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but they are socially passing and crippling students in the special education division, primarily a lot of times in the minority or low socioeconomic. There is something called a certificate. A certificate looks just like a diploma. The problem is the child can't get post-secondary education because it doesn't show they technically graduated from high school. Please pay attention to that, because I feel like a lot of our students within the autism spectrum are going to be subjected to that right there. That right there is a problem for me, because you essentially you squeeze out the ability for that student and that child to become productive adults and self-sufficient as much as possible. So when you go to IEP meetings, do not let them say, oh, we're going to give them a certificate. A certificate for what? This is not an attendance. This is school. This is life. And I like to use the phrase for, like, okay, so when I was younger, I took Kung Fu. And one of the things that my Sifu taught me was, if a man can't breathe, he can't stand. Now, let me explain to you what that means, right? So when they socially pass your child and they don't make sure that they're making benchmarks, they are taking the life out of the body of that person to stand up going across the stage. Okay. When they can't get out into the world and there's no level of self-sufficiency, they can't stand up. So it goes back to, if a man can't breathe, he can't stand.
Wow.
So he can't stand up in the world that's going to hit him from the side. And yes, as a parent of a special needs person, you are going to always be there in some capacity to hold them up. But if they have their legs haven't been even designed to even stretch, they're not going to stand up. So for every time a teacher says, oh, it's okay, no, I have a goal. And a lot of times you're going to have to say, I have a goal. I have to be, this is my child. I gave birth to this. So we're going to, at all costs, make sure that I do what I can do and everything. And a lot of times, in some cases, you want to go, I usually, when I talk to teachers, and I've talked to teachers, I've dealt with parents, walking in and having an open, pleasant dialogue, because people are receptive based on how your spirit comes into the room. So what I do is I go, hey, how's everybody doing? We're here. The goal is to make sure this person becomes a successful adult. That's what we're here for. And it's not browbeating the teachers and everything else. I like to go and say, how can I help? What can we do on my side to help your process in the classroom? Because keep in mind, with anything, if they don't understand there's too much going on, they will flip out. And we've seen lots of cases where our students, Black students, are oftentimes brutalized and treated just like complete wild animals, all because of the fact that no one really is understanding their autism. And it goes back to what you said, Carolyn, is what do we do so that they are able to be cared for in school when we're not there as parents? What type of systems do we put in place and make sure that they're being adhered to so that these students are able to be prepared for society, that they're beyond the school walls, where are they at? So these are the things that, for me, are important. It's having a good relationship and building good connections with all the staff involved, you know, even down to the building service people. Everybody is important because these people are there with your child when you're at work. So it's important to come in with a positive mindset, a cooperative mindset, and you generally, you want to have that because it makes such the difference in the IEP. I've sat in IEP meetings for my son, and I've gotten a lot out of his teachers and just working with the counselors. I find working with the school counselor, it's really good. His counselors that I've had have been really good. His last counselor, he did not want to sit down in class. He didn't want to stay in class. And me working with the counselor and attendance counselor and everybody else just helped make that transition so much better. It made it so much better because we were all on the same team and I treated them as team members. And that is another thing we need to do. Now, if I've tried everything I could try and we're not, then the other side comes out. Then we start looking for a special education attorney. And I say, listen, I've done as much mitigation as I possibly can. And that's the issue. The other thing about when graduating is looking at programs that are going to allow them to be stable. One thing I will tell you about is the Schedule A program that they have that's covered under the ADA Act when getting employment. I specialize a lot of times, I help people with workforce development. And so there's certain angles of workforce development that are very, very positive. The ADA Act that they're covered for in school, having that and going into the government under Schedule A is ability for them to go after federal jobs for non-compete purposes. And that is something to know going forward when you're going to that last phase with your child, and that is going into an adulthood and understanding where can they go. Here's the funny part. I found that something, and I can't tell you the agency because of the way things are set up, but I can tell you that I've had conversations with inside individuals, and I told them that they need to hire more people on a neurodiverse spectrum. And I told them, I said, do you realize these people carry this gift? Because right now, honestly, the government is actually trying to backfill some of these positions. And a lot of the positions that are open are perfect for people with autism and dyslexia and dyscalculia and things like that, because of the way we are wired. And that's
Right,
another
right.
thing to understand is that there is a gifting. I work on moves for governmental moves, logistics. And one of the people that I always pay attention to is autism. And we had to move. We literally had to make sure every piece of equipment that he had was exactly what it was. There is no
accommodation.
No, there was an accommodation, but he wanted what he wanted. I literally took a picture and I took a video recording of that, his whole setup. And then I asked the IT department again, do you have his stuff? I'm going to set this up, but do you have his IT stuff? He has put everything in the box. He had a whole special thing. The other thing is that there's an Office of Assistive Technology that deals with accommodations for people with disabilities. They have one. So going into it, I don't think most people know it. They have one at DHS.
No, I didn't know about it.
They have
Akina. Okay, well, we definitely want to share that. Akina, you have been given some nuggets that I can't wait to listen to again and again. We have a sister on as well, a dear friend, old friend. Her name is Sister Tracy Young, and she's going to share her experience. And I'd love for you all to meet after this call because I think there is a powerful connection
Okay.
between the two of you. Tracy, share with us your autism story, resources, whatever's on your heart this afternoon. And she's coming in by phone because she couldn't
Okay.
get connected. Tracy, can you all hear her very well, Akina?
I can't hear her.
You can't hear her. Okay.
Uh-uh.
Tracy, this one might not work. We might have to log you in, figure out a way to get you in. So hold tight one moment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Tina, just continue on. Does anybody else have any questions? I'm going to get my technical guru to get her on, okay?
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
So what I want to tell people is that when it comes to having your child or your loved one tested, one of the things, being a veteran, the other reason why I did this is because I'm a veteran. I did 8 years in the Army Reserves, and I also noticed in so many cases that there are people like my aunt, she had to deploy and she needed to have my cousin with my aunt in North Carolina. And the other thing, I set this up so that if you are a caregiver of a deploying, that has a relative that's deploying and you are a caregiver, that I want you to also have this, because there's so many things that happen when a child is autistic and a parent has to deploy. You want to be able to have that situation for them where they can end up in a place where it's possible. So that's another thing that I encourage, is that people who are caregivers, and maybe I'll end up doing this particular situation with the military, but it is something that is very important for us to be able to take, because it takes a village. It's not a one-sided situation. It takes a complete village. When it comes to looking at different areas of autism and the spectrum. There's so many that they're often very much different specialists that specialize in this. I have different ones pointed, but this particular situation, I also have them with for say the entire spectrum of it. There's like 25 and there's others. So I've packed this particular presentation with loads of information that I could give you, but I'm always willing to open up the door where you can call me up or email me and say, hey, I have an issue, or what about this particular situation? And I also give you where the information that I got. So there's a couple of resources that I picked up. There's like Embracing Autism conferences. And then I also have something for Blacks and autism, because like anything else, and a lot of times we are poorly represented in a positive manner, and resources, and in some cases, depending on the socioeconomic standpoint, we may or may not be able to have access. So there's also something for Blacks and autism, a group for you guys to look into. I have a lot of the information I got was from Embrace Autism and High Intelligence, because again, I want you to see this as a gift, not a curse. And it is important that you do this in relation to that right there. So this is definitely something that I want you to do. Contact me. So my name is Akina Allen. I can be reached at 240-644-3875. You can email me at Akina, Akena .Allen, ALLEN @gmail.com. Or if you want to come to my page, it is at Mogul Chicks on IG. So I've had a great time, Carolyn, with you. And do you have any other questions, Carolyn?
No, I just want to thank you for being a gift that keeps on giving,
You're
because you
welcome.
really blessed us such a powerful presentation. I can't tell you. I've been out here now for it'll be 25 years. My baby turns 25. Can you believe it?
Oh,
On May 18th. Yes.
okay. You got a Taurus baby like I do. They stubborn.
Yeah. Oh, girl. Strong-willed,
Yes.
determined. Oh,
Yes.
yes. But I thank God she has made me a much better human being. Just really brought out a humanity in me and made our whole family better. One of the things I want to invite everyone to do is to please, please, when you identify that your child may have a special situation or gift, please make sure the family is aware. It's not personal. They're not angry with you. They don't dislike you. They don't they don't have any hard feelings towards you. It's just a part of their personality and who they are. And it's okay. So people won't be like, what's wrong with you? You don't like me? Why you always because they don't understand. So what I did is I went to Autism Speaks and got these booklets. And I shared it with close family members that we were in relationship with. And so they would have a better understanding of how to communicate, because it's a family conversation, and a lot of it is actually hereditary. It's in the bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the DNA. So giving your family members and equipping them with information certainly helps the process. But along with that, it was many, many, many years that I did not follow up or realize, because you're so busy trying to manage it. I pleaded the blood of Jesus and I fasted and I prayed, but it was okay. It is what it is. I went into denial. So I want to ask everybody that's listening, don't feel like, God didn't come through or that God didn't answer. God gave you a gift and a blessing. So get the care. Please take note of this wonderful wisdom that was shared today and get the insight so you can be a stronger caretaker and a stronger parent and just be better for this beautiful gift that the Lord has blessed you with in your life.
So I
So
believe
I
I'm
want,
in. I'm sorry if I'm interrupting.
oh yeah,
Oh,
well,
hey, hey, how are you?
Tracy,
I'm
Tracy
good.
Young, welcome, welcome, Akina Allen,
Thank you.
Tracy Young, and
Hi,
anybody else
Tracy.
that's on. We
Hi, nice to
welcome.
meet you all.
You too.
Tracy, you want to
So,
share anything about, your experience or any insight that we could take away from this time today?
okay, I'm going to be quick because my daughter's in a class and I got to go back in a few minutes. So, I have a 24-year-old with cognitive and developmental delays and autism. And I knew very early on because when she was in vitro, I knew there were going to be some difficulties. So, I made the decision to roll my dice on God, whatever he was going to give me, I was going to be okay with. So, right now, when she was in high school, so I flip-flop from county to county trying to find the best fit for her, from Montgomery County, PG County, Howard County, you name it, I moved there to try to find, a program that would suit her needs. We ended up in Montgomery County, and I'm glad that we did because I know a lot of people say it doesn't make a difference in the school system, but it actually does. Because what I found with a lot of my daughter's friends and her parents and kids who come from PG County, Montgomery, even Howard, they weren't prepared when they got out of school. Like they didn't know what that next step was going to be. And a lot of them at 20, 24, and even older are literally just sitting in the house all day because they don't have anything to do. The parents don't have the flexibility to be able to do the things that they need for them throughout the day. So they suffer. They don't have a purpose, is what I said. They need a purpose to get up every morning like everybody else. So in my search to try to find purpose for my daughter, I was happy that in ninth grade in Montgomery County public school system, you have to decide if you want your kid on the diploma track or the certificate track. I knew the chances were she wouldn't be able to pass the standardized testing, so I put her on the certificate track. That meant everything from ninth grade to 12th grade that she would learn would be around life skills and what she would do when she got out of high school. So she only took basic math, basic English, basic history, basic reading, the things that she would need. And incorporated with that was life skills, where they had cooking classes and classes on health and cleanliness, where they took them out into the community and taught them stranger danger, how to ride the bus, how to get on the metro for those who were able to do it on their own. However, everybody participated. Also, what I liked about Montgomery County is that it's all inclusive. So they try to put special education kids in the classrooms with the regular ed kids as often as possible and bring in an aide instead of what I had witnessed in PG County that I didn't like is that they kind of had a few classrooms for special needs kids and everybody was in those classrooms, no matter your need or your developmental issues. And I noticed that kids like my child will digress and conform to their environment. So if you put them in an environment with children who are have less, who are more difficultly challenged for a better, I don't know a better way to say it, than they are, they kind of work to that. So if you put them in an environment where kids are striving to learn things and, excited about education and things like that, I found that inspired my daughter and she wanted to do what they were doing. So it kind of pushed her forward a little bit. And that's how Montgomery County handled it. What they also did was they immediately started all the paperwork for DDA, for doors and things like that, so that when she got out of high school, there would be no wait period. She would already be on the list, at the top of the list. There was no wait period for me at all. She came right out. Her benefits started immediately. So right now, I think we have like a $30-something thousand budget that we get every year from DDA. In that budget is everything that you can think of, from camp to what you name it, it's in the budget. Her gym class that she goes to, she gets a budget for that. Her transportation. If I want to hire an aide from, there's so many different agencies out here that offer aids and advocacy for kids like ours, where they will give you an aide that will pick them up every day, take them out and do whatever it is that you and your child decides that they want to do every day. And that aide is responsible for making that happen. Within that also, you don't have to hire an aide. My daughter is what they call self-directing. So I'm her aide. I'm responsible for making sure that she gets community development, making sure she gets personal development, things like that. So throughout the week, I take her to different classes. She goes to Montgomery College, where she takes challenge courses that are for no credit, but it gives her something to do every week. And she wanted to experience college, so we go to college. So I also take her to art classes. And I live in Montgomery County. We're in Montgomery County. There are several different social clubs and things for kids like my daughter. So we have a party tonight that she's going to that she's been looking forward to. So like every other week, we're going to a party, or we're going to a swim thing, or a dance, or during the fall, there's hay rides and things around fall weather. During Christmas, there's things. And she's had an opportunity to make a lot of friends and to be on the phone so much that I have to take it away, and things like that, which is what I really wanted for her in her life. As her aide, I get paid through the DDA. So she's my boss. She signs my pay slip every 2 weeks. Actually, I sign it. We go online, we sign it. So she can pay me anywhere from $15 an hour to $65 an hour to manage her day. Because I'm her mother, that's $65 an hour, tax-free. I also have a 40-hour, a 40-hour 9 to 5 like everybody else. So because I don't need what they also offer, and like they offer us health insurance and life insurance and PTO and leave and all the things that you would get in a regular job, because I'm her caregiver. But because I don't need those things, they reimburse me for the money that I pay for my health insurance through my other job, my regular job. So I send in a reimbursement slip every 2 weeks, and whatever comes out of my check for health care, things like that, they give me back. So I've had made a list. Well, I'm compiling a list of all the different agencies that I want to share with my friends and people who have the need for advocacy for their child, that will kind of detail all the different things around Maryland and all the support systems around Maryland for kids like ours. Because I think that some people don't even realize that autistic kids are privy to everything under the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Yep.
And you can ask for those things. If you need a lawyer, you call them. They will give you one on the sliding scale. If your kid is school age and you don't think that they are meeting their goals or whatever in their classroom, you can call an agency. They send someone into the classroom unannounced to observe, to even have that teacher reconfigure that classroom so that it's conducive to them being able to learn. It's all kind of things out there that, because I struggled so much as a single mom with my daughter in the beginning, that I had no choice but to like find these things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I even went so far when she was young, when I didn't have money for camping, had to work in the summer, I would just call companies. I would call Starbucks Incorporated. I would call who owns Starbucks. I would call who own just any person that I could think of and say, hey, do you have grant money for special needs? And a lot of times they did. And that's how I got her camp paid for several years. They don't know that you can call the Maryland Social Service Department and the Department of Health and Human Services. They give grant money every single year that covers camp or anything that they need to do during the day. It's money out there, but I don't think people know how to access it. So I had to share with Carolyn a couple of weeks ago that I'm in the midst of opening my own day center. I want to open a day center for special needs women at first, because I'm going to need to get rolling before I can incorporate the men, because special needs girls and boys together is a whole nother challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to open this day center where I have every day they have a specific schedule. Like Monday we'll do like open with yoga and breakfast and, art lessons. And I want my parents and my participants to be able to speak to me and tell me what it is that they want to see their child doing on a daily basis. And I want to make that happen. I want days where I bring people in to give them cooking lessons, to teach them how to wash their clothes. I've spoke to a lot of the professors at Montgomery County who have worked with my daughter this last semester, and they're all willing to come in and teach classes at my facility the same way that they do at Montgomery College. So I'm really excited to kind of get this ball rolling, and I'm working towards it. And I have a wealth of information because it's just been a struggle. And I've been promising Carolyn that I'm going to get it together and share it all with you, but then life gets in the way. But I'm going to do it.
No, it's good. I live in Montgomery County myself. So please reach out.
So you already know.
Yeah, I'm in Montgomery County. The reason I became an advocate is because I'm dyslexic. And I remember
so am I, and I'm ADD, and I take meds for ADD.
So being that and people telling you the things that you can't do and fighting all this stuff, and I've really fought racial discrimination with my IEP when I went to spring break. I promised I would shut the school down if they didn't play with me. I was serious.
Well,
so
I went to Northwestern.
Okay.
And it was terrible. I'm going to tell you how bad it was. I got all the way to my 12th grade year. Spring break, I never went back.
What?
I never went back. I just couldn't do it no more. I was at the end of my rope, and I said, forget it. I just didn't go back. So now here I am, no high school diploma, depressed, everybody passing me by, watching all my friends do things that I wish that I could do, knowing that these are things that I could do if I had had the right support.
Right.
Which I didn't.
You become the advocate that you needed for yourself at that time period.
Right. So I moved. I had a cousin in New York, and I decided I'm just going to go somewhere else where nobody knows me, where I don't have to be embarrassed and whatever. So I moved to New York. I struggled. I passed the GED like almost as soon as I got there, and that was difficult for me. It was a struggle, but I passed it.
I understand. Trust me, I understand.
And then I went to community college, and what I did when I got to community college is I went to my advisors and I told them, this is how I'm struggling, and they put everything that I needed in place for me to end up being an honor student. Had never even gotten a freaking B or C. I struggled for a C my whole educational career.
Right.
And here I am in college, and I'm an honor student. And I'm tearing up just telling you this. So it took my confidence level, my and my self-worth to a place that had I not made that move, it probably would have never been. And from that point, taking one step and then the next step and then the next step would only build more confidence for me, and build more confidence for me, and build more confidence for me. But even with that, as an adult, and having learned the proper mechanisms for me to be able to function like everybody else does, what I struggle with now is my not feeling like I have to prove it to the world. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So even at 54 and all my big family, I don't think they can forget who I was at 17. You know what I'm saying?
I understand.
So I try hard to keep my daughter out of that. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, the people around you, although they don't realize it, will stifle your development because you start to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I don't let people speak negative into my child. You better not say, because I will get in you real quick.
Exactly. I would say, damn.
You know?
Yep, that's us.
If you want to. But you know what I would tell to you? Let me give you some words on that. Let me tell you how to deal with these ignorant family members. Number one, I know who I am. I come dressed to see who you pretend to be. That's number one. Okay? Number two, I know my gift is going to provide the life that I want to live, and I refuse to see it any other way. A lot of times, and I was adopted inside of my family, and there's a lot of stuff that came with that because of my adoption. But let me explain something to you. I walk in the gift that God gave me. Okay?
That's right.
You're going to keep doing that. Number two, you have what's called very good dynamic reasoning, because when I got diagnosed, they didn't tell me I was gifted. I had to find out on my own. But let me tell you something. All of your dynamic reasoning, you saw the future. So you said, let me move to New York because I know I can do this. That's number one. And then all of the gifts of dyslexia have been your hustle grind. That's you. That's the gift that you don't know that you carry, because being dyslexic, they don't tell us that. So what you need to understand is that, honey, don't cry. Say, guess what? My gift looked like Tiffany's in a brown bag. And see, you decide to play throw me away, but honey, we're not going to throw me away. See, what you have is what's called material reasoning. You know what things look like, okay? Because that helped you to put this stuff in place for your daughter. You have what's called interconnection reasoning. You were able to look at things that were unlikely. And you said, you know what? I'm about to make this work because you got some money for me. That's the interconnected reasoning. Then we're going to go into narrative reasoning. You were able to go to these people and get your money for your child because you were able to verbalize what it is that you wanted. And then you have dynamic reasoning. You said, honey, I see the future. And because I see the future, what it is, I don't care where I started because it don't make no difference.
That's right.
Don't make no difference.
Guess what? The last time I checked, Jesus ain't putting no ad in Indeed. Right?
No.
Okay. Right.
No. I look back at my life and I don't even know who that person is. You know, we have been through a lot, from assault to my daughter being sexually assaulted to this, to that. And I've had to, you know, push past all that stuff and just keep moving, just keep trying to make tomorrow better for her. And I'm telling you, if it wasn't for me getting on my hands and knees and just saying, okay, God, I'm just really going to be still. And the thing that I realized is when, and even to this day, when I have challenges, if I trust God, like for real trust God, which sounds a whole lot easier than what it actually is to just sit there and say, I'm gonna just let the chips fall because he got me. Everything turns out the way it should be. But when I stress over it day to day, when I'm losing sleep and I find myself crying on the way to work, not knowing how I'm going to work this out or figure this out, or like my last biggest challenge before she left high school was, what am I going to do with her? What am I going to do when I have to go to work every day, when my son is out of the house every day? What am I going to do? So I would like that. It would keep me up at night. And then I just I just started saying, okay, closed mouth don't get fed. So I have to talk to people. I have to ask questions. I have to, like, when I see somebody in the grocery store who seems to have a kid like mine, I have to figure out a way to diplomatically and respectfully ask, hey, I have a child with such and such, and I noticed that you might too. What resources do you use? What do you do during the day? How does she function in this? And that's how I got a lot of information. And I still do that right now. When I see people with a child like mine, I go right up to them and I introduce myself, and I because we all have the same needs, all the same worries, all the same cares. And I try to give them whatever information that I have, and they give me theirs, and we exchange numbers, and we end up being friends. And now I've made a friend, and my daughter can now make a friend because she has a child like my kid, and that's how we've networked my whole life. So
I think that is beautiful. I think that is amazing. But keep in mind, I want you to keep this in your mind. Your dyslexia is the gift that your daughter needs. Because of your dyslexia and your thought process, that is the gift that you're giving your daughter. And there's no point in that, because we don't know.
Because I'm also ADD. On top of that, I'm ADD
with mine too. So your quick thinking is moving you. It's moving you. You said, honey, I'm a teacher, and I'm gonna pay attention to what God has given me, and I don't care what your thoughts are. I know what He told me. My email came to me. He didn't say CC anybody.
Right.
That's right.
And like even now, when I talk about people, like I was talking to my family members, and like, this is what I want to do, and this is what I'm trying to put in place, and this is when I want this to happen. Nobody had words of encouragement. Everybody said it's gonna be hard. You sure you want to do? You're gonna do that, and I'm like, well, Jesus Christ.
Guess what? They didn't get your email, honey. They did not get the email. God gave you a whole email. He said, honey, I set you.
I'm like,
he said, I set before you an open door, right? Ain't that what he said? He said, I set before you an open door that nobody can touch, right? So guess what?
Yeah.
That open door was for you. He gave you that key. Remember, he
So
let
I'm gonna open that door because I'm gonna tell you
Exactly.
what, it's been years and years and years in the making. Ever since my daughter was little and I didn't have resources, I would always say, I just need to do it myself. I just need to do it myself. But being a single mom and having kids, it never felt like the right time because you got to pay bills and you need that check. But lately, in my spirit and like in the last 6 months, it's like God is saying, go. It's time. Let's get it together. And all that fear and all that apprehension and things that I used to feel when I would think about this, I feel none of that no more. Because now it's my time.
Exactly. Tap
It's
into
my
the
time.
gift that you have. Because guess what? It's for an appointed time for such a time as this. Ain't that what he told him? Ain't that what he told him? But see, you doing what you do has bred another advocate. You saying, I see a vision of this open door. I'm gonna open up this now. Because there's a whole bunch of people like me. And I don't care what you think ain't gonna get funded. I'm gonna find some people in this county got some extra money.
It's gonna get
It's gonna get done. Trust me. It's gonna get done.
I just wrote a lady. I saw an article in the paper last year about the richest woman in Montgomery County. I forgot her name because, you know, it slipped my mind. I'm gonna have to go look back. And how much money she gives to different organizations throughout the county in Maryland every year. And I wrote her a letter just the other day.
Exactly.
I need help. What resources do you have?
Yes, honey, that's that open door. See, the
Yes.
over and understanding that we think people that are familiar with us are going to open that door. Honey, they got more blockades than the FBI to keep us out of stuff that God has left for us. But guess what? I heard a song this morning. It said, what God has for me is for me.
It's for me.
It had nothing to do with what my relatives thought about my past. No, because you're getting ready. That's what happened. See, God said, write that letter, have that vision, because I need you to get ready. So
and then also what I'm really trying to make sure that my heart is clean, because on one hand, it was like, I want to show them. I want to show everybody what I can do. I'm going to show them that I'm not who they think not that person or whatever. But I don't want that. I know that the reason that I'm doing this is because of my child and the love that I have for her and my need to see other kids like her get what they need. So I'm really trying to dispel that part that with Satan in my head saying, you go show them, because that's not how I want this to come to fruition with that on my heart. I want my heart my project to speak to the love I have for my child and the need I have to see other kids like my children have a purpose the same as I want for my child. So every day I'm praying, God, stop telling me to show them.
I didn't bring the lunch downstairs. I was like, let me just see if they have one first.
Yeah. And I understand that, because it's so many times they look at us and they say, oh, your report card was this, or you didn't do well in this, or whatever else. And I get it. I get what your vision, what their vision is. But a lot of times it's, what's my why? What is my why behind this whole situation? What is the why that I have? And my why is to make sure my child has the most beautiful life that I can provide and create. And that is the why. When I look at, like, why do I do special needs advocacy and things like that? My why is I've become the advocate that God created me to be, in spite of all the circumstances that I got hit with. In spite of everything.
But you know what? Not to interrupt you, but when I think of those circumstances, I know that the reason that I had to go through every negative thing, that I had to cry, all those tears and all that stress and worry, is to make me who I am today. To make me that person who's going to have that fight for everybody else who might have to one day go through anything that I went through. Because had I not experienced all those things, then I really couldn't speak to those situations. I really couldn't put myself in somebody else's place and empathize with what they're going through, because I would have never been there, So having gone through all those things, I can say, okay, I really know how this person is feeling. And then my heart will make me do everything that I can to make sure that they come out, as best they can in that situation. So I no longer am like, why me? Why did I have to be the one? Why this and why that? I'm like, God appointed me. God appointed me because I look around and everybody could not handle my situation.
Exactly.
Everybody could not walk in my shoes. Everybody, they think they can, and they make comments and they say things. And then when she was little, oh, let me get her for 5 minutes. That one used to kill me. And I'm like, dude, if you thought you could, if I could beat the autism out of her, it would have happened. That ain't how you do it.
I'm gonna tell you, I've seen something I ended up, my first job I created was in a barbershop. And I always have a love for it. I found out my dad used to own a barbershop when I was younger. And I saw this lady, and her son clearly had autism, and he was doing what he would normally come to autism. And she was browbeating, and I really wanted to tell her, stop that. He's not going to operate like that child in that chair. And you need to get to it. You need to stop.
And you know, that's hard for a lot of people, because even with me and having done this for 24 years now, sometimes she's so functional in certain areas that I forget. Not that I forget, but I have to remind myself before I react, before I speak or anything, that, okay, she's doing the best that she can do. This is her best, so I'm going to have to praise it, even if it's not the way that I would do it or the next person would do it, or even the way that would be easiest for her to do. If this is her, I have to learn to let her be her. And that was a difficult thing with my son, who's a little younger than her, but absolutely more developed mentally, emotionally, everything than her. I had to for years keep reminding him, you got to remember, this and this, you know, she's this, she's that, you got to be patient. And now we're at a point where I have, you know, he's her biggest advocate. He loves his sister, but those were some hard years. And like days when, go get dressed, and she come out looking like a clown. And I'm like, no, we about to go to the mall, and she got this, that, and the other. And she's standing there, you know, so proud of what she did. I dressed myself, and I like this shirt. And I'm like, now I'm at the point where if you clean and your clothes are clean and you're happy, let's go. I don't care.
Hey, let's get it. Let's go. You shoot. If you ever see on Fashion Week, she probably blend in with what they got on Fashion Week. Some of that stuff is unrecognizable. So I think she's doing pretty good. Hey, listen, and you know, inspiration from them. You know, but
you know, she's become, over the years, she's become such a well-adjusted child, such a friendly, outgoing, talkative, will strike a conversation up with anybody, will remember everything, got a whole, you know, she has blossomed into this person that I didn't ever think we would ever get to. Never. And that came from keeping her away from people who would be discouraging or would stifle her spirit or anything. I just don't take her around.
Yeah, exactly.
No. Family, friends, whoever. I don't care who you are.
No.
It's not. No.
God gave me his gift. It ain't for you to come and destroy it. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And that's how you have to be defensive. It's like, you know, in the military, you know, in going through certain trials and tribulations, you understand that. And I always say, once you go through basic training, you never come out the same way, because you understand certain war tactics and you can see stuff differently, and your body's built different. Your mind is built different. You're not going to play with me. I may go through something, but I will never go back to thinking like everything else. And you feel like that with your child. Like, listen, I already know what y'all did to me. What we're not going to do is do that to her. So if your negative energy is here, I'm about to excuse myself, stage left, and you can sit here with that. But you're not clouding my child because of what your thought is.
Ladies, I really want you all to connect offline, because I think there is some powerful synergy. But I'd like for our audience to have a way to connect with you all. Please share once again how they can connect with you all about just having these gifted, beautiful children on the spectrum of autism or developmental delays or whatever the circumstances are. We still regard them as a gift. Akina, how can folks reach you again, please?
So you can reach me at my phone number is 240-644-3875. You can reach me at Akina, Akena dot Allen, at gmail.com, or you can hit me on IG at Mobile Chicks there.
Hey, that's wonderful. And Tracy, how can folks connect with you as well?
You can call me, text me. I don't have a website up and running yet, but we're working on that and getting that developed. My phone number is 301-917-4926. My personal email is T like Thomas, R like Robert, E like Edward, 20770 at Yahoo. And I'm going to have to get off with that and go get my daughter out of class. But what I want to say before I go is that we're all a team. God appointed us.
Yeah.
You know, there are several parents in this world that are, everybody's an excellent parent, but no parent, like a special needs parent, develops the ability to think every single minute of their child's life through. Like from the time they wake up to the time that they go to sleep, we have to be aware of absolutely everything that our child is doing, saying, who they're around. It's a unique place to be. And like that, you know, that's what people always say, God picks his strongest soldiers for his hardest battles.
Yeah.
And I think if we all just help one another, be a resource for each other, then we're going to get where we need to be quicker than we think we are.
Well, we have
So thank you.
we've identified you too, and we've got a special gift bag we want to share with our mothers that's on who have children that are on the spectrum. And I'm sorry, Tracy, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay. I was just going to say thank you, and then I got to roll off the call, and I will talk to you soon, Carolyn, and thanks for inviting me, and I got to go get my kid out of class.
Nice
Okay.
meeting you.
Go ahead.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead. Thank
right.
you, sweetie. We're glad to have
Bye-bye.
Tracy share, Akina. If there are any other mothers of children with special developmental delays or whether it's autism or not, please let us know. If you're on my Facebook page, you can reach me, or if you can drop it in the chat. Akina, take a peek in the chat because we like to give you a special gift, a token to say thank you. Thank you. We see you. We celebrate you and we recognize you. So we want to send you a little something special so you can soothe yourself and relax yourself. If anybody is a mother, I want to thank everyone for this wonderful platform and opportunity. We've shared some powerful information. I thank you, Akina, for just being so engaging and stepping in. And Tracy, you and Tracy are going to be the best of friends. I've already declared that. I want to thank everybody who's been rolling with Sisters for Sisters Inc. I'm sorry, did you say something? I don't want to cut you
I
off.
said, no, this is going to be really cool.
Yeah, yeah. I'm excited. I have known Tracy for at least before I had Camille, over
Okay.
25 years. Yes, yes. So, and I have known you about 15 plus. So we got 40 years together, all of us combined. And that shows there's a trust level there. And I know who you all are, and that makes me very comfortable. But I want to tell those that are joining with us, we do have some information on our website, sisters4sisters.org. I want to thank everybody for rolling with us during the month of April. April, big month. We did a financial literacy workshop, which it was financial literacy month. But most importantly, we did our National Sexual Assault Month, Child Abuse Awareness Month, and of course, Autism
Okay.
Awareness Month.
Your phone was cutting out.
Okay, how about now? Can you hear me
Yeah, I
now?
can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, we did several different causes. Visit our website, sistersforsisters.org, to hear and learn more. But most importantly, we have something on sexual assault awareness and autism. And I learned this week from Sister one of our sisters, LaQuisha Hall, that over 70% of autistic girls are impacted by sexual violence. They have
Mhm.
been violated sexually. So it's all intersecting, and that's why we all need to stay educated and aware. As a favor, I'm asking everybody to visit our site and sign the petition for Sister Shanteria Weems, who was the sister who defended children being sexually abused in her daycare center in Baltimore. I'm asking you to
Mm.
sign the petition so we can have her released. We are also sending her letters and cards and also monetary donations, which we have. We're reaching out to let the world know we're going to support and stand with this sister who supported and stood and defended children from child abuse. So I thank you all. I thank you all for joining us this month. In May, we will be going over its Mental Health Awareness Month. And as you all know, I was at a professional on yesterday, and he said, I cannot tell you how overwhelmed I am. But there's some things we can do as well. So we're going to go over that in the month of May. Sister Akina, thank you. Do you have any last parting words before we
Yes,
end?
I want you to all understand that this is a gift and that understand what the issue is when you get test results, but do not dwell on it. Dwell on the gifting and see that person at the best way possible. That's what I would tell people.
Amen. Thank you, Akina. And
You're
on behalf
welcome.
We are thankful on behalf of Sisters for Sisters Incorporated, Sister Cares, and my angel girl, Camille. I want to thank you all for tuning
Yes,
in, and we will have this recorded. Please share and spread the good news, not the gospel. I mean, the
right.
gossip, not the bad news on the evening news, but the good news that these kids and these adults, all of us, we are gifts to one another. You all have a wonderful and blessed day. And thank you again for joining us.
Thank you
God
so
bless
much,
you.
Carolyn.